HPA, is it good? Should you do it? Well, let's find out. So what is HPA? Well, for those of you who don't know, HPA stands for High Pressured Air. Not for He Plays Airsoft, although that is available on this rather fancy t-shirt. Check out that fancy little plug, eh? But anyway, back to the topic at hand. HPA, that's the kind of airsoft when you're running around with essentially a bomb on your back. And not the kind of fun bomb where you can throw it at somebody and it'll explode and they'll go like here and they'll go back to the safe zone. No. This is the kind of bomb that will take out you, your loved ones, and everyone around you who's within like a close enough distance to get hit by it. But it's perfectly safe. That being said, there's a lot of differences between HPA and electric, and I've been curious about HPA for quite a while, and I was always, wondering if HPA was the future for me. Am I just like an electric AEG casual? I don't really want to use gas M4s or gas AEGs. Is that the right terminology? I don't think so. GBB AEGs. Don't want to use any of those because I have enough problems with pistol mags at the minute with like valves and leaking and gassing. And at least with electric, you don't have any leaks anywhere. You make sure your lipos aren't exploding. You put them in, and hopefully they still won't explode. God, the more I think about it, the more of like just general airsoft stuff seems to be quite dangerous, really, doesn't it? Let's go right back to the beginning before we get to the experiences, and let's just like take a quick look at what the key differences are between HPA and AEGs. This here is an AEG. It's a King Arms LaRue M4, and it's quite nice. It's super like full metal, real steel kind of counterpart. It shoots really nice. It's super heavy. But it's not HPA, it's electric. That means you put a battery in here, and then there's a motor in here, and then there's a piston in there that the motor pulls back, and then it goes pachoo, and then the BB goes all the way out the barrel and flies that way, and hopefully hits someone. And if they don't, then it's probably me who's been doing the shooting, because I'm quite bad, yeah. So that is an AEG. Now let's have a look at a HPA rifle. This is a Tippmann M4 Mark 1 carbine. It does not have a battery in here. It does not have a motor in here. What it does have is a valvey thing here, which you connect your hose to, and then all of that high pressure air comes through here into this kind of valvey system, and when you pull the trigger, it lets some of that high powered air through into the BB chamber, and then it fires the BB out that way. So instead of generating its own compressed air, which is what an electric one does, HPA already has a ton of compressed air, which you're carrying around with you. The downside for that, though, of course, means that you have to carry this compressed air around you, and although you can get some rifles which have a compressed air tank in the buttstock here, which is quite cool and works really well for DMRs, you don't get that many shots out of that, and you certainly couldn't run a whole day running like standard M4 wise. So for these ones, you have a tube that kind of comes out there and then will go to a tank on your back or on your belly or wherever you want to have it, really. And this is what one of the tanks looks like. This is a 0.8 litre high pressured air tank. It's rated at 3,000 psi, 200 bar, and putting that into context, a car tire is generally about 30 psi. So this is pressured 100 times more than a car tire. And you know when car tires explode, they go bang quite loudly and the whole tire kind of rips apart and then the cars generally crash. Think about that, but 100 times the scale. And that's what this is. The other thing, which isn't a necessity, it's more of a, if you want to do it, you can get scuba tanks, which are much bigger than this, which you fill up with air, and then you then fill these little baby tanks from your bigger tank, so you don't have to, rely on the sites to fill them up for you, or take these little tanks to other places, or have a compressor and fill up from a compressor. That's what this is. This is a 15 litre, 3,000 psi, 200 bar scuba air tank holder. And what you do is you take your thing and then you put it into there and then you twist this valve and then air comes out and then you fill your tank up with it. Ooh. And it's bloody heavy, so let's put that back. That's the main differences in terms of kit, like what you're going to be running and what you need to have with you. Of course, with HPA, there's more stuff to carry around. This is pretty bloody heavy. You've got the tube that comes through from your kit into your riff as well. And yeah, there's a few more things I'd say to think about. With electric, you have got your batteries that you need to manage, and there's also the danger inherent with them as well. Like, you need to keep, if you're using lipos, you need to keep them in these, fireproof bags, because if they do spontaneously combust, either when just chilling out there or not, then hopefully it won't set your house on fire. Generally, you should be charging them in a garage or something, but I don't have a garage, so I use my computer desk, which is made of wood. I'm gonna die. But generally speaking, electric is, I'd say it's certainly much easier as a point to enter into Airsoft, and if you're more experienced, then I think most of us at some point in our lives will want to give HPA a go, and I've done that now, so I'm going to tell you how that experience was. Now, these experiences will always vary rift to rift, and all of my experiences are going to be based on using the Tippmann M4 Carbine Mark 1, which has a ton of recoil built into it too. Now, I must admit, I did have a ton of fun with this gun. It shoots really, really well. It shoots super straight. And the recoil action, I must admit, is very nice. However, there are a few things that I don't like, which, unfortunately for me, is going to be stopping me from playing using HPA from today. I'm sorry, fella. I should have told you first, shouldn't I? And first of all, there's a lot of kit that you need to carry around with you. And I'm always carrying around a ton of kit anyway. I take my tools. I always got like 3 rifts that I'm taking with me. Although now it's going to be less because I'm going to be getting rid of this bad boy. But I want to try and reduce how much kit I'm taking overall. And having to make sure I've got my 3 air tanks like with me that are all fully aired up. Making sure I've got my tank on my back all ready to go, and the valvey bits and like the cable coming through. It's a lot of extra kit, whereas you could just take, you know, an M4, put the battery in it, and then that could last you like all day just as it is. Another reason why I prefer electric to HPA is the tube. Like, I know a lot of people say with HPA you don't really realise the tube is there, and that was kind of true for the majority of my gameplay. Once I managed to get my tube in the right place, I didn't really notice it at all. There was times where I did notice it though, and that was generally when I was running like this. I'd be run, and then all of a sudden I'd spot someone and I'd need to put my arm through so I could then, you know, shoulder the riff. But because my arm comes through like this, and my tube is here, I'd always knock it with my elbow. So I'd always need to either be very self-conscious about making sure I threaded my arm through, or I kind of like, you know, if I could pull the thing down and then get it round like that, or I just have to make sure I was always running around like this so I can quickly shoulder if necessary. And for me, I'm very much like, my kit needs to work. And if my kit isn't working for me, I need to change it. So sadly, that's one of the other reasons why I had to change. And finally, and I think by like, you know, it's the biggest one out there, it's just the general performance. Like, I was expecting to get some decent performance games going from electric to HPA, because people who play with HPA say that it's more consistent and every shot is like the exact same FPS because you're just getting the air in through the valve. But then on the other side of things, when you talk to electric people are like, it's always the same amount of FPS because the piston can only travel like that much distance, so you're always compressing the same amount of air. And after using it firsthand, everyone is correct. To be honest, you know, everybody is correct, and you're always going to get differences in FPS, both with electric and with HPA. With electric, with the spring compressing loads, you get different FPS, and that's fine. It's always going to go down. No matter what, your FPS is always going to be going down. It's because your spring is compressing and is wearing out. With HPA, with the valves in there, they're on screws, and those screws will slowly come out, which means that your FPS is going to change. And again, you're going to have to do that ongoing kind of maintenance to keep it going in the same working right in the same way. Oh my god, my brain is hurting. Long story short, electric guns and HPA guns, they pretty much perform very similar in consistency. HPA costs more, certainly. However, you can get really expensive electric guns too, so that's not just a single-way street. HPA can be a lot quieter than electric, so if you want to be super sneaky, if you want to have like a super quiet M4 or even run like a DMR build with HPA with like a HPA tank in the stock, that's a really, really good reason to run HPA if you don't want to run a bolt action. But with electric, I find that there's also more that you can do with it. Like, I completely understand it's great. If you want to get like a drop-in motor, like a Polar Star Jack, you can put it in there, you can change your FPS, and you know, you're off and you can go. You can change how many rounds per second you want to do, you can change the power of it, and that's great. With electric, however, I feel like there's more of a romantic relationship you have with your gun, where you can change your gear sets, you can change your shimming, you can change your spring, you can change your piston, you can change your cylinder, you can change your piston head, you can change your nozzle, you can change your tappet plate, you can do all of these different things to your gearbox to make it your gun. Shush. And I will admit, a lot of these things I've done, and I've made my gun much, much worse. But also now, my gun's running much, much better or it's running closer to how it was when I got it originally from the shop. Either way, that's a win. So yeah, like, I'm happy that I've tried HPA. It was an experience, and, you know, it was a really, really fun gun to shoot. But I think that for the kind of player I am and the kind of style that I like, I just need it to work and be good. You're not going to see a huge increase in performance going from electric to HPA. And I will say out there, don't judge a book by its cover. The HPA's got a bad rap, but it's not, don't worry about it. And that is it. So thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, all of that fun, juicy stuff. Keep calling your hits, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters.